What's up, horror fans? It's Danny from the Lassercast. And last Thursday, I got a chance to go to the IFC Center on Broadway to see Brooklyn 4-5, the latest film from Ted Geoghegan, the director of We Are Still Here and Mohawk. And I'm really excited to review it tonight, give you a little bit about it, not spoil too much. I had a great time out Thursday night. Ted Geoghegan, the writer-director, was there. Sam Zimmerman, who is basically the head of content for Shudder, was there to host a Q&A after the film. Ted introduced it, and then there was a Q&A, as I said, after with Ted, and then stars of the movie, the great Larry Fessenden, noted producer from Glass Eye Pix, director, occasional actor, Jeremy Holm, who starred as the titular Ranger in Jen Wexler's The Ranger, which is really awesome and you can find on Shudder. And also, I don't want to spoil this particular character and actress who's in the movie, but I will say that there was another cast member there, and in the movie, they are great. I don't want to spoil it because it's kind of a left field thing, and I feel like if I go too much into it, it will, as I said, spoil things. Before I get too deep into the Brooklyn 4-5 review, just some cleanup, so to speak, for our channel. First of all, please like and subscribe if you haven't. Always helps us out. We're over 500 subscribers, which doesn't sound like a lot, but this is just me and Pete doing this from 2 different states for fun during the pandemic, and to have over 500 subscribers means a lot. We just finished season 2 of Yellow Jackets. We have all 9 episodes reviewed on our channel. You can watch all of those as soon as you finish the season. Watch our season finale review. Tell us what you thought of season 2. Later this week, I've been doing a lot of overtime, so Pete and I have not been able to get together to do a review, but we are going to be getting together later this week to talk about The Barn, parts 1 and 2, which are both streaming on Screambox. I got to see The Barn a few years ago at a New Jersey Horror Film Festival, a New Jersey Horrorcon and Film Festival. I got to meet the director and the DP, Justin Seaman and Zane Hirschberger, really cool guys. And The Barn Part 2 just made it up to Screambox. So Pete and I are going to be reviewing those for the channel. And then we're going to be getting into some Wes Craven films the following week. I also want to give a shout out to a new podcast. For those of you who like Full Moon Features, we're talking the Puppet Master movies, we're talking Evil Bongs, we're talking the Ginger Dead Man and the Subspecies films. If you're a fan of Charles Band and Full Moon Features, you should check out the new podcast, Puppet Masters and Castle Freaks, which is on Spotify. My buddy Jared and his friend Steve did the podcast. I listened to episode 1 on my way home from Staten Island yesterday, and it was great. And it actually inspired me to download Charles Band's autobiography on Audible, which I will be listening to in the upcoming weeks. So, little house cleaning, getting out of the way for our channel. Now I can go back and talk about Ted Geoghegan's Brooklyn 4-5, or Brooklyn 45. It is in reference to the year 1945. And if you know anything about U.S. history or world history, 1945 is the year World War II came to an end. And that's important because this is effectively a World War II-ish horror movie. I want to make one point. This movie's coming out on Shudder this Friday, June 9th. So that's why I'm going to try not to spoil anything. Just give you some basic plot points and some character notes. Because I want you guys to watch this movie on June 9th, and I want you to love it, and I want you to tell me what you think. But one thing that I think might, I don't want to say confuse people, but it was a little shocking for me, at least, was the poster for this movie kind of gives off a fun vibe. It kind of makes this movie look like it's a comedy. There's, you know, some fun font. The tagline is kind of cute. The voices from your past would like to have the ghosts of your past would like to have a word with you. The imagery is not scary. It's more almost comedic. And while there were some moments of levity in this film, it's really not a comedy. It's real intense. It is a very confined thriller, a very confined horror movie. There are ghosts, but there's also some real life horror in this film. And being a history person, my day job, I teach history for a living. In fact, I saw this movie in theaters right after my students took the U.S. History Regents here in New York. So, like, this really kind of hit home for me. So, I would only just say, don't go into this thinking, this looks like a fun comedy horror film. It's real serious for most of the movie. Yes, there is definitely some levity. There was one line in particular, that the New York crowd at the IFC Center laughed out loud. There were a couple moments where there were some good chuckles, but there were also some real intense moments throughout this film. Basically, what you have here is a horror stage play. You have 5 characters who are, 4 of them are reuniting. They are veterans of World War II. You have Larry Fessenden, who plays Lieutenant Colonel Clive Hochstadter. He is the host. The characters meet outside of a brownstone and in Brooklyn, and they go upstairs, and this is Hoch's house, Lieutenant Colonel Clive Hochstadter. We learn very quickly that his wife, Susie, has died. We learn a little bit more that she has committed suicide. He is joined there by Major Paul DeFranco, played by Ezra Buddington. You might remember him from the remake of The Hills Have Eyes. He's a genre actor. He's done over 100 films, over 100 credits on IMDb. They are also joined by Jeremy Holm, the Ranger from The Ranger. He plays Major Archibald Stanton, and we find out that he is kind of under investigation for what could be war crimes. And the final of their World War II Final Four is Anne Ramsey, who this woman, when she walked out on screen, my first thought was, oh my God, where do I know this woman from? And then I looked on IMDb and I thought to myself, not only do I know her from this, but I also know her from this and this and this and this. She was in The L Word years ago. She was in Dexter. She was in like 7 episodes of Dexter. She was also Deborah Logan's daughter in The Taking of Deborah Logan, which is a great found footage horror film. So you will definitely recognize Anne Ramsey when you see her. She plays Marla, and her non-military husband, Bob, played by Ronnie Raines, they are the final 2 people at this gathering. We'll call it a gathering. And Marla was the hardest, most ferocious woman in the military. She was basically a torturer. If they needed, information from people, they went to Marla. She's also sporting a limp from an injury that she was in a building that was bombed and fell basically on her. All 4 of these people have a lot of, pun intended, ghosts from the war. And Larry Fessenden's character, whose house it is, Clive Hochstadter, I'll just call him Hoch from now on, he is hosting a gathering. Everyone is drinking. There's a lot of formalities. There's a lot of tension with Bob because he's like the one outsider of the group, which is kind of a continuous running thread in the film. And we very quickly find out that this is really Hawk has brought them together to do a seance so that he could see his now dead wife and ask why she committed suicide, why she took her own life. And the movie goes from there. And when I said before that this is a confined thriller, once these characters, this movie is about 90 minutes long, and the movie starts outside the brownstone where 4 of the 5 characters, or at least 3 of the 5 characters, Arch, Bob, and Marla meet up. They go in. Hawk and Paul are already drinking. And once those 5 characters get into the house and get into the parlor room, that's it. They don't leave the parlor room for the rest of the film. And the rest of the film is effectively shot in real time. So there is this insane amount of dread that comes from what ends up happening in this room as you're watching, because there's never really a chance for you to take like a breath and to remove yourself as the viewer from this tense situation. It's really so effective. The tension in the movie theater was like palpable. And then there are some things that happen later where you're, as an audience member, you almost feel nervous for the characters. And for the decisions that these characters make and then have to make. Also, it's a horror movie. If you've seen Ted Geoghegan's prior work, especially We Are Still Here, you know that this guy can make a really good, effective ghost story. And there is some really good practical effect ghost work in this film. There is one really cool ghost effect, at least, that I won't spoil. And then there is one practical effect scene that the audience was just like almost backing up. Like, you know, like when you're in your chair in the movie theater and you're just like, whoa, that's how you felt. I would love to talk about Ted Geoghegan, especially the writer-director, because he made it very clear in both his introduction to the movie and in the Q&A that this was a passion project for him because of his father. His father was a quadriplegic military veteran who he would share the script with and basically have his father work on it and, you know, correct him on military terminology and military protocols. And he basically felt like, he even said that he asked his father if his father wanted a co-writer credit by the time that they were done writing. And right after his father called him and said, I think it's good, I think the script is finished, they hung up the phone, and basically his father passed away in that moment, that evening, and that was the last night that they spoke. That hit a lot for me. I've said it on this channel. My father passed away in 2021. It was very sudden. It was very unexpected. My father helped, like, me cultivate my love of horror almost by accident. And I always give him credit for just letting me, at such a young age, roam the horror aisles of a video store and, like, not, you know, baby me and pamper me in that regard. But to hear Ted's story of him and his dad and how that affected him and how this really from that point on became like such a passion project for him. And with the whole story basically being historic in nature, it is a World War II themed horror movie. And the tension, I almost feel like this would make a perfect off-Broadway stage play, or fuck it, put it on Broadway, because you need 5 actors, and just the tension in this space is, you could cut it with a knife, and in some cases you actually do. I don't want to spoil too much more. 5 people 4 of them World War II veterans, dealing with their own personal issues while doing a seance, and then having to deal with some real ghost issues. And like I said earlier, there was another person on the Q&A. I don't want to spoil it. You'll see. But the person is tremendous in the movie. They add so much to this film. And I really, really loved it. In fact, I was talking to some of the people after the screening about how I run the horror movie club at my school, and this feels like the first movie that I'm going to go to when the horror club starts again in September. Also, I might hold it off to when I get to World War II, and I might show this then. And there's also, one of the things that he mentions in the Q&A, Ted Geoghegan, was how he wants us, the audience, to kind of come up with our own answers to some of the questions. And I feel like this is such a great movie for that. It can provoke such discussion, so much back and forth, dialogue, debate. And even though it's a movie that is set in 1945 and is about World War II, so many of these issues that are brought up in the film can easily translate to today. I genuinely loved this movie. I think this is going to be one that hangs around and stays near my top 10 list by the time this year comes to an end. I'm really rooting for this movie. I like all the people involved. I like the director. I like all the actors. I like the subject matter. So I just really hope that on Friday, June 9th, you get this movie on Shudder, you watch this movie on Shudder, and you sing its praises. You tell me what you think, and you can comment on this video and let us know. So, yeah, Brooklyn 4-5 premieres on Shudder again, Friday, June 9th. Check it out then. When you do, leave a comment on this video. Tell me if you liked it as much as I did, or tell me I'm a fucking idiot. I am fine hearing that as well. I hear it all the time from the people in my life. Pete and I will be back later this week. We are going to be reviewing The Barn 1 and 2, which are currently streaming on Streambox. Streaming on Screambox TV. The Barn Part 1 is also just is streaming for free on Tubi, so there's that. And then we will be getting into some Wes Craven. So this has been Danny from the Lasser Cast. Brooklyn 4-5, Friday, June 9th on Shudder. Check it out.